Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy Nascar show. As you can tell from the cowboy hat, we are coming to you from the Lone Star State this week for the Duck Commander 500 from Texas Motor Speedway. I'm Sean Big Papa Williams.
I'm Jamie, the Learjet Lear,
who apparently can't take off cowboy hat, and
I'm Adrian Woodruff.
All right, we have a lot of race action for you this week, and with the race being on Saturday night, let's get to the action quickly. And first, it's time for Lear to give us that track breakdown. Later,
all right, boys. Good to be with you on this early Saturday morning. Obviously, we're here talking about the Duck Commander 500. It comes to us from Fort Worth, Texas, and Texas Motor Speedway. The track is 1.5 miles in length, 334 laps to complete the race. It's an oval-shaped track with asphalt surface. Turns are 24 degrees. This is the most common in the larger tracks on the Sprint Cup Series, like Atlanta Motor Speedway and Charlotte Motor Speedway. And some really exciting racing going on at Texas Motor Speedway, specifically in the turns where this is where most of the passing occurs. This track is up to, three main grooves that the drivers do use. This large track is as far as laps led, will be less of a premium this week. More emphasis on place differential is crucial, taking down the GPPs this weekend. NASCAR started racing in Texas in 1997 when it was under construction in 1996. And then as far as my interesting fact for Texas, I will save that for later on the show because it has something to do with one of our burn rubber drivers. So, otherwise, races tonight, Saturday, April the 9th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Weather is going to be 77 degrees during the day, partly sunny, transitioning into some night racing tonight, boys, which is very exciting. I love night racing with a 10% chance of precipitation. Winds will be south at 19 miles an hour, according to weather.com. Speeds will obviously increase as the night, turns from day to night as the air cools. So, that's going to harden the tires, and these guys are going to increase speed. So it should make for more interesting racing later on in the race. So let's get it down, boys.
With that said, I think it's time to get to the Burning Rubber segment. We'll find out.
Rubber, baby!
And with that said, thank you, Lear. Let's get to Adrian. And who's your first guy to burn some rubber this week, buddy?
Before I get to my burning rubber, I just want to touch on what Lear said. Texas Motor Speedway is a track a lot like Atlanta Motor Speedway. This is a very coarse 1.5-mile track, really fast here. Every time drivers come to pit road, they're going to want to put 4 fresh tires on there. It's not really going to be a question of whether they get 2 or 4 because the driver's going to be screaming for 4 tires after he's been out there for so long. There's going to be certain points where drivers will have the opportunity to pit early, and with tire fall off being so big, drivers that are out on fresh tires will be accruing fastest laps at a pretty high rate. So that may be something to watch out for, but it's not really something that you can predict. But with that being said, let me get into my burning rubber pick. And since this is a 1.5-mile track, I don't understand how we could have this show if I didn't tell you that Kevin Harvick is a good pick for this Texas Motor Speedway. When it comes to 1.5-mile tracks, he just seems to be the one who gets those dominator points, and it's almost a sure thing. It's like a money-back guarantee with Kevin Harvick. He has the 4th best 10-lap average in final practice, which is pretty decent. He has an average start at Texas of 18.3 and 12.3 during his career. He has 3 straight podium finishes at Texas. The race before that was actually an engine issue. He only ran about 43 laps, I think. So that's kind of an anomaly. He has 14 top 10s and 26 Texas starts. And he's led laps in all 4 races since he's joined Stewart-Haas Racing at the Texas Motor Speedway. Kevin Harvick just seems like as safe as it gets. It may be too chalk, but I believe it's somebody that you have to have in your lineup, especially I believe he's starting in the 22nd starting spot, so he's going to get to and he's going to be setting those fastest laps, trying to get up through the field as fast as he can and head towards the lead.
Lear, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, obviously anytime that you think about 1.5-mile tracks, which is the most common track that we have on the Sprint Cup, you always think first Kevin Harvick, Jimmy Johnson. I mean, those two just go hand in hand. But when it comes to Kevin Harvick, obviously you're going to be paying the premium this week. Largest salary, $10,500. But as Adrian said, I mean, guys starting in the 22nd position. I mean, for somebody that dominates 1.5-mile tracks, plus you get the place differential, which is going to be crucial here. As we don't run as many laps as like we did last week at Martinsville. I mean, I'm definitely going to be sprinkling in Kevin Harvick all over in my lineups this week.
Yeah, dude, I agree. It's ultimately a choice whether or not you want to, like, in all honesty, whether or not you want a Harvick or whether or not you want to roll Jimmy Johnson. It's really difficult salary-wise to roll both of them. It puts some exclusions on your builds. I have no problem rolling with Harvick. You'll see a little bit later, like the side I'm leaning on. But before
the one crazy part though too is he's raced here 26 times and he has 0 wins, which is kind of un-Harvick like, but it's still part of the 1.5 mile track circuit, and it's crazy. He's got an average starting position of 18 with an average finish of 12. So obviously he's really good at place differential, and he only has 1 DNF in 26 starts. So that was that engine issue that Adrian talked about. But I think you're gonna have to definitely roll some teams with that Harvick Johnson combo and reach down later on.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the key. I was going. Well, sorry, Papa.
No,
I just wanted to mention that I kind of feel like since Kevin Harvick joined Stewart-Haas Racing, any stats that he has before that kind of go out the window, because since he joined Stewart-Haas Racing, it's more like a rebirth of his career. He's an entirely different driver. And in 2015, in both of those races, he had tire issues that he rebounded from very well. In the chase race here last year, he had 2 tire issues and still came back to finish 3rd. So Kevin Harvick, hopefully he doesn't have tire issues tonight, but Kevin Harvick knows how to pass cars, and according to NASCAR's loop data, he passed the most cars last time they were here.
Right on. I think it's a solid pick. And with that said, Lear, let's get to your burning rubber pick. Who you got for us this week?
Well, boys, my burning rubber pick, I'm going to be leaning towards somebody that's from the local area here. I'm going with the number 19 Toyota, cousin Carl Edwards. Edwards loves Texas, as he has some decent track history, and his statistics that he has here obviously proves the same. He's got 3 victories here in 22 race attempts. He's got 7 top 5s with 11 top 10s. Edwards does not have a win in 2016, but he is primed to do it this week, I feel. And he qualified first. I'd actually liked him and picked him for my burning rubber guy before I even knew, who had qualified where. But he will lead some laps this week with a chance to lead a ton. Obviously, his car is fast, and he feels that him and his team are starting to piece things together, and him and Dave Rogers are starting to get on the same page. But best news is that his cost this week is just criminal, boys. I mean, he's $9,800. You're not going to get somebody of his caliber under that $10,000 mark. And cousin Carl being from Columbia, and I just have a really, really good feeling that he's going to go 1-1 this week, and it doesn't happen too often, but I just have a good, deep sinking feeling that's going to take place. And I feel a lot of people are going to be off of him just because he is starting from the pole. So that should increase, your chances, if you do put him on your team, of separating yourself from the rest of the other people in the pool there.
Yeah, man. Dude, look, solid logic. I think where your head's at's the right place. The problem is this season so far, the average finish for a pole sitter in NASCAR is 14.8. Right? That means you're inherently taking with you a negative 14 spot place differential, and I think that's just risky. Now, cousin Carl, in my opinion, is a phenomenal driver and shouldn't have that big of a fall off, but I mean, it's very possible. Now, what I do like about your pick, Lear, is the JGR cars seem to be all dialed in, including the Truex car. It's just the JGR affiliation. These guys are really fast. I like the group of them. I have several builds with the group of them. I'm not sure if the money is spent better on Edwards or if I save a little bit by Hamlin and try to get the place differential, since all those cars are set up the same. Adrian, your thoughts?
Yeah, It's funny. We can tell that we've been doing the show for a long time because you just mentioned that the average finish for a pole sitter was 14.8. As Lear was talking, I was writing that stat down, and I was just about getting ready to say it, but you said it before I could. It's pretty funny. The JGR cars are really fast this weekend, and Carl Edwards actually might have the fastest car he's had all season. Just watching the practice sessions and just watching the way he's been interviewing. He seems to really like his car. He said after he got the pole, he was really nervous to go out into the final practice because he said he just didn't want to mess it up because he knew how good his car was and he just didn't want to disappoint his guys. And he was in the booth last night for the Xfinity race and talked a lot about his car and how good he thought it was for today. But the thing with Carl Edwards is I feel like he's going to be a top 5 driver. But I don't necessarily think he's going to lead that many laps or set that many fastest laps, especially with guys like Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick and Jimmy Johnson coming from the back of the pack. I think once those guys kind of catch up, if we have it, that might be all she wrote for Carl Edwards' lap leading for the day. But with that being said, Carl Edwards is one of those guys that, you've got to have him in GPPs, sprinkle him in there. And I love where Jamie's head is. I mean, I can't sit here and tell you that to not pick a JGR car as fast as that team's been over the past couple of years. No complaints from me. It's not necessarily someone that I'm on this week.
Yep, and I think that transitions well into my burner rubber pick, which is somebody that everybody's going to tell you to play here unless they have no idea what they're talking about, and that's Jimmy Johnson, and he's 10,400. What else can you say about Jimmy Johnson? Is the guy's stone cold nuts on the 1.5 mile tracks. And unlike Harvick, he dominates this track. 5 out of the last 7 races here, he won. That's right, 5 out of the last 7 races here, he won. Now, in case that stat's not good enough, 24% of the time he races here, he's won the race. 52% of the time, he's finished in the top 5. And 76% of the time, he gives you a top 10 finish. Now, he qualified 11th, and I gave you the stat just a little while ago that all but 3 of the winners have been have been in the top 10 in this race in the past 20 races. I think this might be the exception. Jimmy Johnson can easily get from 11 to 1 and have 0 issues controlling the track all day long. It's actually the one reason why I don't like Payne. I know he's going to at least fall back to Jimmy. They've got this car dialed in. It didn't seem like he was worried about anything. They were just playing with lines on the track from what I saw, and just having a good time enjoying the new downforce on this car. I just don't think you can do better for 10,400. And I have him going 11 to 1, which would put him as the number 1 point getter this week.
Well, I love the Jimmy Johnson play. He's the king of Texas Motor Speedway. Chad Knaus laughed over the radio last year when he won here, and he said, "How many times have you won here in a row now? Because it's crazy. Atlanta Motor Speedway is probably the closest track you can compare to Texas Motor Speedway. And if you combine the last 2 races at Atlanta Motor Speedway and the last 3 races at Texas Motor Speedway, Jimmy Johnson's won all of them, 5 straight. I mean, it's just we don't even really need to explain it. I mean, we could basically just write Jimmy's name on a piece of paper and hand it to somebody and say, just pick him." Every show that you watch, every article that you read about this weekend, Jimmy Johnson's going to be the cover photo. He's going to be right at the top. I just think that your head's not in the right place if you don't start your team with the 48 car this weekend. And the yellow numbers are back. You guys know how many races he won with the yellow numbers on the car? I love it.
Yeah, I meant to mention the yellow numbers. That's just sexy in and of itself. He's got his yellow back. All right, Lear, your opinion? Are you going to trash me?
No, man. I love, like I said earlier, the Kevin Harvick, Jimmy Johnson play. But, just doing research on this race, I mean, it's crazy how much Jimmy Johnson just dominates Texas. Jimmy Johnson owns many stats, obviously, at Texas Motor Speedway. But he is the first in 4 out of 8 categories to win basically 50% of all categories for this track. He has the most wins, which is 6. He has the most top 10s with 18, the most laps led with 1,017, and then also owns the best average finish of 8.8. This guy just absolutely dominates, owns Texas Motor Speedway. He lives there part-time during the season. That's how much he owns Texas. So I'm all about Jimmy Johnson this week. It's just with his salary, it's going to be hard to mix in some of these guys. But that's why they call it taking risk, and they call it a GPP because it's a pool of different players, and you just got to pick the right ones. And Jimmy Johnson's definitely going to be on some of mine. I'll guarantee you that.
Right. Now, normally, guys, you guys know me. I wouldn't recommend somebody that chalk, in my opinion. But as good as he is at this track, if he's under 85% owned, he's under owned.
That was going to be my next question: is what do you boys tag his percentage of owned being?
Dude, I think it'll be probably like 55%.
51 probably.
Yeah.
Yep. We've noticed a trend all year that people just don't seem to recognize when something's in front of them. And this is another perfect example. Kyle Busch was only 25% owned last week, guys.
Yeah, well, and to be honest, like I only had that on 25% of my lineups as well, and I knew better and didn't do it, and it hit me a little bit in the pocketbook. But that's racing, right? Like when Hamlin wrecked, like that's what happened. Like, but that wraps up the burning rubber segment and brings us to the value segment, which this week, with you needing to spend up for drivers, is more important than usual. So let's get to the guys that we are looking to save some money on, and we'll start off with Adrian. Who's your value guy this week, buddy?
This value play, guys, is probably the most sure I've been about to play all season long. It's pretty crazy. Because he's starting from the 14th position, and Roush Fenway Racing has had its struggles recently at mile-and-a-half tracks. But I'm rolling with Greg Biffle driving the number 16 clean Ford Fusion. Greg Biffle is – if Jimmy Johnson's the king of Texas, well, Greg Biffle is his queen because he has an average start of 12.8 and an average finish of 14.8. He has 733 career laps led at Texas. That's fourth all-time. 2 career wins at Texas. That's tied for third all time. Like I said, I love the improvements that RFR has made at the 1.5 mile tracks in 2016. They've shown a lot of speed. Greg Biffle finished 12th at Atlanta earlier this year. He has 13, 18 top 20s, and 8 top 5s. And he has the 13th best average finish. 15 straight top 20s at Texas to boot. And he has a top 15 in 13 of the last 15 Texas starts. Along with the 11th best 10-lap average during practice. I think this is the race where Greg Biffle finally gets it together. And I think that you're going to be watching the race tonight, and you're going to hear Jeff Gordon and DW talk about, man, the 16 team's really gotten it together. And you're going to look up your lineup, and you're going to be like, man, I don't have the 16 on my lineup. Well, now you do, because I just told you to pick them.
No, it's crazy. The Biff, he's just one of the – yeah, he's just one of those guys that, he's got to be one of the most tenured drivers on the circuit. And a guy of his caliber, he's raced there 24 times. His cost is $6,500. I mean, you're not going to find a guy down in that area of that salary range with that much experience. And he's just one of those guys that kind of, just hangs out and lurks in the bushes. And then all of a sudden, when it's his turn, he's like, "Wah!" He's coming out to come and get you. And I'm right there with you, man. I wish he would have qualified a little bit later, to be honest with you. But no, I like the Biff too, and I really think he's going to be one of those guys that people really overlook just because he did qualify semi-high. So you're really going to get a really sweet low ownership percentage of him tonight. So yeah, I like the pick.
Yeah, boys, I'm actually on board. I think if you don't pick him, you're going to get biffed. No, guys, like seriously, it's just the right value pick. He fits into a lot of lineups. It's just smart. Like you said, Andy had one of the best 10-lap averages out there tonight. Like, looked really good. Oh, sorry, last night. Was really good in the second practice. I like where he's at. Lear, who's your guy for value this week, buddy?
My value play this week, his brother always wears one of these, when he's not in the race car with his helmet on, he's always hanging out with this thing on. But I'm rolling with the old Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon is just one cool man. I really love Ty Dillon. If you don't follow him yet, you need to go on Twitter and follow him at Ty Dillon. He's just a good follow. He's a fantasy advocate. He's a huge fantasy player. Just talked about a bunch of baseball lineups that he got put together so far this year. But concentrating on the NASCAR aspect of it, so far in 2016, out of 4 races, he's got an average start of 16 with an average finish of 15. This week he qualified 30th here at Texas Motor Speedway, and he's dirt cheap still. He's $6,300 this week. He'll be racing the number 95, which is being leased from Circle Sport Levine Family Racing. The vehicle is from the RCR fleet, with his brother, obviously, Austin. But he'll be a great place differential guy this week. Plug and play him everywhere. I just really have a good feeling that he's going to be ending up in either the late teens, early 20s. I don't foresee him getting into the top 10. But with Ty Dillon, it's always a question mark because he just has that much talent. And, it's just one of those guys at that price point and where he's starting from. I think it's a pretty obvious play.
Yeah, dude, the value, I think he's a top 15. I think he has a ceiling of top 15 car. He looks like good, and he was running really well in the practice. Dude, the price is just wrong on him. Look at his history in DFS. Every time you roster him at his value, he gets you the points of a guy that's priced in the $8,000 range, and he does it on a more consistent basis than those guys. I think it's a must play. The only worry here is that he's a young guy on this abrasive surface where we've got a little bit of the jumping that happens and a little bit of the transition as we see coming out of turn 2 and going into turn 4. The drivers tend to have a little issue there. And the younger the driver, the less experience, the more likelihood that they will have problems there. So just be wary of it, but at the same time, you're not going to find a better equipment and a better position to gain you better spots with a better up-and-coming driver at that salary. It's just not going to happen. Adrian, your thoughts?
Yeah, Ty Dillon actually ran the Xfinity race last year. He's running for the Xfinity Series Championship. So he ran 300 miles here last night, and they run the same tire in the Xfinity Series. So he has a lot of experience, just based on last night with the tire fall off and how that kind of thing rolls. And Jamie was talking about how he's surprised a lot of people with his talent. Just know he didn't get to the Cup Series, with a potential part-time ride, just, by not impressing people. He may be Richard Childress's grandson, but if he didn't know how to drive a race car, Richard would pull him out of the race car. Ty's just really impressed me lately. He does have a win at Texas Motor Speedway in the Camping World Truck Series. So Ty knows how to get around this place, and he was running top 5 most of last night until he had tire problems due to none of his own doing. But yeah, I mean, Ty Dillon has a really decent vehicle this weekend. People are going to look and see this, the 95, and they're going to say, kind of stay away from it because, Michael McDowell usually runs the 95, and the team doesn't necessarily have the backing, so Michael doesn't necessarily run as well. But the 90, like Jamie said, the 95 is an RCR car. When they were building the cars, I mean, the only difference between him and Paul Menard and Ryan Newman and Austin Dillon is just the livery on the car. So I think Ty Dillon's in a great spot starting 30th. I definitely see Ty Dillon finishing, 15th, 16th, 17th. And that's all I need from him. I won't even be disappointed if he finishes 20th, honestly. So Ty Dillon's awesome. He's just a player that's in almost every one of my lineups, and he's just awesome salary relief because you really need someone. He's pretty much as low as you can go other than AJ Allmendinger this week. So I love it.
Hey, one quick thing I just want to say real quick. I just wish, since he's driving the 95, that his paint scheme this week would be like Lightning McQueen. But otherwise, I'll get off that. That's all.
All right. I think the Lightning McQueen talk is a good transition into my value pick, and it should be a surprise to no one that I'm going with Maverick himself, Austin Dillon. And I told you guys I would keep doing this until DraftKings adjusted his price appropriately. And guys, dude, I'm just right on this, and I have been every week, and I'm going to keep going back to the well. It's DFS. It's not rocket science. Don't get cute. Austin Dillon is a great source of points, and he qualified 10th today. He's 7,800. He's still underpriced, and last week he went 24th to 4th and scored you 67 points. Like I told you to roster him then. He has the fastest 10-lap average from practice 2. He looked the most comfortable. He also ran the Xfinity race last night, so he's got all those laps and all that experience on this track. He's also improved every time he's ran at this track. I just love this play this week. The guy doesn't let me down. And I know you guys think it's an easy cop-out, but until they adjust him appropriately, I'm going to keep going back to the well for my boy, Maverick Austin Dillon.
Jamie, are we surprised that he picked Austin Dillon this week?
No. I figured since I didn't get a response from the text message that I had last night, or should I say earlier this morning, that I sent, saying, are you talking about Ty Dillon? Or I'm sorry, Austin Dillon. So I was just figuring that we're probably going to discuss him during the show today.
I knew we were going to discuss him on the show, especially since Papa's here. But I mean, he's not wrong. Austin Dillon's having an impressive season. I really wish he would have qualified a little farther back than 10th. He's been really fast in practice. Really like the speed that car's kind of shown now. Slugger Labby has that car dialed in, and Slugger's one that's going to keep a car in the race for 500 miles. And I think Austin is the top 10 driver. He wasn't last year, and he wasn't the year before that, but he's really turned it on, and he really likes this new relationship with Slugger Labby. DraftKings adjusted his price a little bit. He's $7,800 now. He's for the teams that I'm working with, I don't have any of Austin Dillon just necessarily because he costs a little bit too much. But that doesn't at all mean that I wouldn't play him if I could.
Yeah, as far as my perspective on Austin Dillon, we're looking at, we're going from track to track, boys. So it's not going to be like a, consistent every single week, except for Big Papa because he just has a man crush on Austin Dillon apparently. But I mean, as far as it goes, I mean, I definitely love the maturation of Austin Dillon. He is obviously, you can tell with his statistics over the last couple of years that, he's really starting to get this, and it's really starting to click with him. And racing with the big boys full time, he just keeps getting better, and I do agree with that. But from my perspective, just over qualification for him at the 10th spot, and at that $7,800 price point, boys, last week he went up over $1,000. He went from $6,700 and averaging $6,700, $6,800, $6,700, $6,700 to jumping $1,100 to $7,800. To me, $7,800 is just a little overbearing when it comes to Austin Dillon. I mean, don't get me wrong. Will I have him in a lineup or two? Yeah, I probably will. Maybe even double donk on the Dillon boys. But as far as somebody that I'm going to look to and use as a main staple in most of my lineups, not this week. Sorry.
All right, and here's why I love the both of you and why you're exactly wrong. Is because exactly what you guys are saying, I'm going to get him at 2% ownership percentage. And when he goes ham and possibly wins this race this week, like he is very capable of doing in that car, especially since he fits the mold, 80%, 85% of the racers that have won here are in the top 10. And he's got the fastest car in the longest runs. We've seen all that. I'm just saying, I'm going to get that guy at 2% probably because everybody's thinking what you guys are thinking. So feel free to stay off of
the corner on the restart and gets pushed out and goes into the wall. I'll tell you so.
Well, dude, you can make up hypotheticals all day long, dude. But numbers and stats say what they say, dude. No, here's the honest truth. Even at his current price tag, all but 1 week this year, he has overperformed the current price tag. What you got on that, Lear?
All I have to say is,
I just think DraftKings have caught up to his price.
Yeah.
Still not technically. They're getting closer, though.
I think he's a $7,800. I wouldn't get too crazy. I don't think Austin Dillon is above 8K yet.
All right, fair enough. With that said, boys, it's time to give everybody a segment where we get to talk some good trash on the drivers. And just because Austin Dillon is so awesome, his hat shouldn't be worn during the trash talking segment. Remember, guys, this could be that we don't like the driver. It could be that the driver's overpriced. It could be an overqualification, like those two were trying to argue with me with Austin Dillon. It could be that the driver just has a bad track history here. And with that said, who you got going to the garage this week, Adrian?
I got Casey Mears, the number 13 Geico Chevrolet, going to the. His cost is $6,300. He has 11 races at Texas with Germain Racing, which is pretty much the only sample size you can look at with Casey Mears since he was with Chip Ganassi Racing and Rick Hendrick Motorsports before that. So obviously a lot better equipment in those situations. He has one top 20 finish in those 11 races, and he only has one lap led in those 11 races. Only 3 positive place differential out of his 11 starts with Germain Racing at Texas Motor Speedway. And since joining Germain Racing, he has an average finish of 26th. I don't necessarily think he's going to be going to the garage, but I would consider 35th the garage. So I do consider him going to the garage.
Fair enough.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Casey Mears just is. He's one of those guys that, you know, he's a salary relief guy. It really just each week to week, it just depends on where he qualifies at. But looking at the stats, I mean, I was kind of blown away that he's raced here 23 times since 2003. I mean, has he really raced that long in Sprint Cup? You know, kind of threw me back there, but yeah, I'm definitely not on the Casey Mears play this week. But good luck to those that are.
I got 0 ownership percentage over here, man. We're in agreement. So, with that said, Lear, who you got going to the garage?
Maverick. The pattern is full.
Sorry, that was the tower they were just calling in for Maverick's name. That
oh, dude, Austin Dillon's gonna take the victory, and rock the tower on the way. But you messed up your analogy, bro. You do that. You fly by the tower after a victory. All right, so who's your guy going to the garage?
My going to the garage guy is Chase Elliott in the 24 Napa. He's having an up and down rookie season so far. For this week's race, he has a way over qualification in the 4th spot. Kind of brings back memories, boys, of early bits of this season back at Daytona when he qualified first, and everybody's like, I'm not, you know, picking a rookie 1-to-1 on the first race of the season.
Right.
But the insulting part really is he's 8,000, which is way too much. You know, needs to be more like in the $7,500 range, DraftKings. But a rookie who is, you know, starting up that close to the front, plus with his cost, it just screams stay away from me this week. I love you, Chase Elliott, but just not this week, buddy. Good luck, though.
Well, I'll say this: he's no Austin Dillon. No, dude.
Oh wow!
No, dude. It's just an overqualification. I just had to give Lear crap there. I agree with you, dude, and we'll get to my guy in a second, who's the same way in overqualification. Adrian, your thoughts?
Yep, I agree. Overqualification. I love Chase Elliott. You know, Georgia boy. I'm from Georgia, hometown guy. You know, Chase couldn't be nicer, but this is not the week to play Chase Elliott. I honestly think he'll finish top 15 this week. But it's so to make an easy mistake at this track. You know, getting onto pit road is so tough here. The speeding penalties at Texas Motor Speedway just seem to be rampant because it just comes up on you so fast around turn 3. You have to get down. The transition to the apron is so abrasive here. When they built this track, they built it for the Indy cars and the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series cars to run on the track together. So they kind of built a hybrid track, and the way they built the aprons, it kind of slams the suspension when you go down in certain parts going towards pit road off turn 4. And it's real easy for a driver to, you know, lock the tires up and make a lot of big mistakes. So, you know, rookie mistakes are something that I don't want to have to worry about. And starting in the 4th position, I think Chase Elliott's just too much of a risky play.
Yeah.
Yep. And for everything you just said is the same reason why I'm off my guy going to the garage, which is Blaney at $6,700. The price looks good, and he looks like he's running well, and he's been on a nice uptick. But dude, he qualified 7th. He's timing out, running in about 15th. That's a negative 11 place differential automatically for where he was running in practice, 2 in the 10 lap averages versus where he qualified. I don't want to start off the race negative 11. That's not where I want to go. Negative 11 in place differential. And that's just if nothing goes wrong. And that's without including the treacherous pits, the entrances into 2 and the exit the entrance into 2 and the exit of 4, like these are treacherous things that these rookies are going to have issues with, and like a lot of them just don't have as much experience as they should. Like, and I think it's just easy to avoid them, and this is a little harder to avoid because the price is just right. But I just don't think there's any way he's finishing 7th or better. You guys agree?
I somewhat agree. If you'll cut to me, I had to throw the Ryan Blaney hat on to prove to everybody that I'm not a Ryan Blaney hater. I love Ryan Blaney. But Ryan Blaney is just not the week for him. He's a top 15 guy, and I've loved the success that he has this year. And I really hope that Ryan can beat Chase for the Rookie of the Year. And if Chase crashes that, I sure hope Ryan doesn't. But I just think there's a lot better options around Ryan's salary. He's just a bit too high for the $6,700 price point, and in these cheap that are going to bring home that place differential. So not necessarily a good play this week.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Ryan Blaney for me, I mean, that kid's got a lot of talent too. Obviously him and Chase, they wouldn't be in the Sprint Cup if they didn't. But with him being in the 7th position as far as starting the Duck Commander 500, it's just really hard to get on a guy that starts that high, also a rookie. But looking at the stats, he's raced here twice, and both times, no fault of his own. Had an engine issue last year, and then also, a crash. So he's got his two starts. He's got an average start of 19 with an average finish of 42nd. So, I mean, obviously that's not a huge implication on him, but starting from that 7th position and with everybody that, especially being the 1.5 mile track and all the talent that is in the circuit, it's hard for him to get up higher than that 7th position. I mean, $6,700 is sexy for, somebody. But unfortunately he just qualified too high.
Right. Like, and here's the thing.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on. Go ahead, Bob.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, being a Trevor Bayne fan over the years, I've followed, Wood Brothers Racing a lot. And I've noticed that Ryan Blaney's had a lot of success, and he hasn't had any equipment failures so far this year. That team's just been really strong. Watching Trevor Bayne when he was at Wood Brothers Racing, they blew a motor or they lost fuel pressure. It's those little problems that come up because this is their first season running full time, and then may not necessarily have all the kinks worked out to run a 36 race schedule. And I just think at some point there has to come a bump in the road. I hope it's not true, but I just feel like at some point Wood Brothers Racing has to have an equipment failure. Just because they're not used to the demands of traveling across the country 36 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's to do. And I want to make it clear, I'm not picking on the rookies. I love the rookies. I think they're making the sport and making racing this year extremely interesting, and I love it. It's just Texas is it's not your standard 1.5 mile track because it was designed for the Indy cars as well as the hybrid track. It's a tougher course, and if I'm going to take a risk on a younger guy and on one of the quote unquote rookies, I'm going to throw it after Ty, who's racing the partial schedule, who actually races this track well. And I just think that you can get him cheaper than these other guys, and he's safer. And I think that's where you should go.
Well, and you're talking to a guy that's starting in the 4th position, the other guy starting in the 7th position versus Ty Dillon, who's starting in the 30th position.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
There's a lot of safety in that qualifying position.
Yeah.
Exactly. So with that said, guys, I'm pretty sure that wraps up our going to the garage segment. That means we're going to the segment where we select a lineup for you. We are the only show that does that, and we just want to show you the process of talking out a lineup together and the proper thought process that goes into that. So with that said, let's pull that up real quick. And all right, boys, who should we start off with? We'll start off with
the Biff.
You want me to throw on the Biff there to get some value started?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start off with our salary relief.
All right. Well, so we got the Biff on there for salary relief. Lear, who you want me to throw on here, man?
I mean, are we just Harvick or Johnson.
It's wide open.
Pick your dart.
I mean, dude, let's just show everybody what it looks like to put Harvick and Johnson together. That'll work. So let's put Harvick and Johnson together.
I can tell you that Harvick and Johnson are on every single team that I've built this week. That's just a little extra information for you guys, but I won't build a lineup without both of those guys.
I've been intentionally leaving Harvick off of some, but that's a strategic thing that I'm doing. All right, Lear, where should we go? Since since Adrian and I kind of threw us into those three, you got 75, 33 left. We got 3 driver spots left. Where should we look?
Well, I mean, it really depends on what your strategy is going to be because, are we going to be targeting later on, guys that are, maybe like a Martin Truex who's good value at 8,700 or, somebody of that caliber, maybe a Kyle Larson who is qualified, a little bit higher than the normal, 8,200. But, if you throw that Ty Dillon play in there for your differential guy, that's $6,300. That's going to jump up that remaining salary a little bit to get somebody of that caliber. So my vote is to put Ty Dillon in there.
Yeah, dude, let's go ahead and we'll throw Ty Dillon on the team at 6,300. That gives us 8,150 remaining. Now, like he said, to spend up for Truex at 8,700, it means we're going to have to find somebody in the right around the 7.4 range, if my math's right. So it'll look like Jamie McMurray on down probably if we roster Truex on this team. That's a solid start. You can reach up even higher if you wanted to and go with Denny Hamlin, who's starting in the middle of the pack and has a really fast JGR car. Or you could reach really high up and go for a Carl Edwards here. I don't know that you can go much higher than that to the Keselowski or Kenseth without harming your team. What do you guys think?
I have a lot of my teams that have Kevin Harvick, Jimmy Johnson, and Kyle Busch with really, really stout last 3 value picks.
Yeah.
If I were necessarily put in this position, I would probably just go ahead and put Keselowski on the team, just necessarily because you have Eric Almirola at 6,600 starting in the 24th starting spot. They're bringing a brand new race car for that number 43 Richard Petty Motorsports entry this weekend. So fresh equipment. And after qualifying, they interviewed Eric, and he said that the car has been really, really great this weekend. But like I said, that's just a strategy. I mean, you guys tell me what you think.
Yeah, I mean, dude, no,
it's just a way that I would put in the situation.
Just to show the viewers that plugs right in and looks really good, and gives you $100 remaining, and we know that anytime you have salary remaining, it increases the likelihood that you'll have a unique lineup, which is really important in NASCAR. But we'll go ahead.
You guys, just real quick too, because we're talking about a couple options here. Because right in that same range of that middle nines, you've got Carl Edwards, you got Matt Kenseth, and then you also have Brad Keselowski right in that same range. Also, too, with Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch is some really good value this week, boys, at $8,400 for Kurt Busch, and he's starting later in the pack there. So, there's going to be a lot of different options this week, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But I think you're definitely going to have to have some variety as far as your drivers. Have your main drivers that you're going to be sticking with as far as your main staples, and then go in and try to add and subtract, and there's going to be that optimal lineup in there. I'm sorry, I'm just going to keep what I'm going to do to myself, so that way I can take home some of these GPPs.
Right. Well, you don't have Austin Dillon on your team, so you're not going to. But no, I'll just
whatever.
So let's actually round out this team and get one in. Do we want to do we can do the one that you just threw together, man? Like Jamie.
I was gonna also mention that Jamie mentioned Kurt Busch. If you were to throw Kurt Busch on there, Austin Dillon fits perfectly into your lineup with $100 left.
It does.
Just another option to show you guys.
Yeah, see, you can do that and then throw the Austin Dillon on, and then you're rolling the Dillon brothers with Kurt. It's just it depends on what you want to do there.
Anybody have any Denny Hamlin love? I know we didn't really talk about him this week, but any Denny Hamlin love?
I mean, dude, it's a guy that I said that I'd reach up for there. I like him, Truex, Edwards, Kyle, all the JGR equipment guys. They're just solid this week, and they look really good. So
so maybe you might want to put together a whole JGR stack too, if you can make it happen.
Shush. Lear, shush.
Um,
Don't give away my secrets.
I was gonna say I'm more on the Penske guys this week than the JGR guys.
I like the Penske guys as well.
Call me crazy.
All right, so where do we want
to? Led 312 laps last time they were here.
Where do we want to go with this team so we can get the show wrapped up for everybody?
I think just to make you happy, we should probably just do Dylan and Kurt Busch.
Oh no, dude! Everybody's seen me put Dylan on teams before. We'll leave Dylan off of this one. What do we want to do with it? $81.50 per guy.
We have.
See,
I've got everyone on
my
this team.
strategy in this is I would pick somebody lower tier, a guy that I really do like this week, and maybe I'm giving up a little bit too much, but I'm going to say it anyways. But I like Paul Menard this week, from that 25 position where he qualified at. From that 25 spot, he's got some good history here at Texas Motor Speedway. Obviously, we know he's got the equipment with being with RCR. But the other thing, too, boys, is his salary is cheap. He's $6,500. So then that gives you the option to, use that remaining salary and get one of those other big boys.
Yeah, you can literally, if you do Menard, you can literally buy anyone other than Busch, Kyle Busch, or Joey Logano.
Yeah.
So
and Menard starts 25th.
Yeah, with that, let's do that, and we'll throw Hamlin on there, and we'll put that team in. That leaves 700 left over. That should be a unique team. Nobody should have it. Like, we've got the favorites on that team and still salary left over unique. Let's roll it. And you guys can see that team in the $5 lug nut. And best of luck. Hopefully that works out well for you. Usually it's some sort of combination of all of our picks and the things we talked about in the video that will make you the most money. But with that said, guys, it wraps up another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. I'm Sean Big Papa Williams. You can get to me at Big Papa Debate on Twitter, or like, share, favorite the YouTube channel or Facebook. Subscribe as well. Yeah. Lear, say your goodbyes.
Don't forget to check us out at fantasydonks.com, where you can get all your information as far as daily fantasy sports. I'm really looking forward to this weekend and actually tonight's race, boys. But Texas Motor Speedway is always a good fun watch. Especially, the Saturday night racing. But it should be an interesting race, and I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully, can be taking down some good GPPs and a couple heads ups for all you out there watching the show. But good show, boys, and God, I hate getting up this early doing the shows.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, I really didn't want to wake up this morning, but I did it for the people. I did it for you guys.
Right.
Hopefully we helped you, and we gave you the picks that are going to help you, kind of if you're stuck building your lineup. Hopefully we're going to, be the ones that can push you over the edge. And hopefully when we do, you'll come back next week and watch us. We're going to be here every week. There's a lot of other shows that are on YouTube, but we can assure you that we're going to be doing this every single week, all season long.
Yeah.
With the combination of the three of us, we will never stop bringing this content to you guys. So as long as you're watching it, we're going to be making it. I'm really excited for Texas Motor Speedway tonight. The drivers are going to be slipping and sliding around. The track is going to be greasy. The drivers are going to be really, really fun to watch. I just wanted to mention you can find me on Twitter at Adrian Woodruff. If you have any questions regarding tonight's race, I'd love to, just shoot me a message or just shoot me a tweet, and I'll be sure to answer any questions you have. If you're building a lineup tonight, I'd love to help you out. Let's go win some money, guys.
Yeah, guys, and like our
I forgot to give my Twitter handle. It's just my name. It's Jamie, Jamie, Lear, Liehr.
All right. With that said, guys, thanks for tuning in again. Really, you guys are the reasons why we do this. We love doing this show. We love talking NASCAR, and hopefully we're making a lot of money, and hopefully you're making money. But I really want to make more money than you. But hopefully we're all making good money. And with that said, guys, have a good one, and thanks for tuning in. Peace out, y'all.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Go Jordan Speed at your 9.6% own.
I agree. Go Jordan.